Greetings, YouTubers, and I present to you with a very obscure 3 racks. Now, this is a very cool find right here, and something that I actually worked on for 10 years. These are the control racks from the Miami Space Transit Planetarium star projector. Now, what's very unique about that star projector was the first 3-axis star projector in the world. It was computer controlled through an analog computer, and it allowed you to view the movement of the stars from any point that you wanted, not necessarily from the Earth. So you could be viewing the star movement from Earth, but you could also, let's say, I want to see how the stars would move if I'm on the moon. This thing was able to do it. Now, mind you, this is 1966 technology, and this is the same technology that was used to control the guns on the big ships during the Korean War, and actually going back to World War II. Now, there's 3 racks. You have the one that's labeled computer rack. You have one called the annual motion rack. And you have the multiplex rack, which, by the way, that's something else that this machine did. That was the first of its kind. It took advantage of multiplexing signals on wires. So you can have 2 wires doing multiple functions. That was unheard of until this star projector was built. Now, this is just the racks that control the thing. The machine itself that went with this is now residing at History Miami Museum. And the console is in the hands of another private individual. Hopefully I can get my hands on a console. But these are the racks that ran the machine. This machine was installed in 1966 and was in service until 2015. I kept it running from 2005 till 2015. Now, the technology here is an analog computer. It's not a digital computer, it's an analog computer. So you have these dials over here, of which there's one missing. And you'll see they're labeled axis 3, axis 2, axis 1. There's one down here that says heading. These are connected to motors, which I'll do another video and show you more about that. Just giving you a little glimpse of what's on the front of the racks. So this is the one that controlled the movement of the star projector and the placement of it in reference to the stars. Now, you had an annual motion rack, and this right here was part of what was supposed to keep the stars in place all throughout the year, keep them in their proper location, because the way this machine was built, it was designed that if it was left on 24/7 and you set it up for the correct time of day, correct latitude, it would present the stars in their proper placement all throughout the day without you having to touch it. But also in here is a bunch of power supplies and so forth. Now, this thing was made by Spitz Laboratories in Yorkland, Delaware. And this is, it says serial number 5. The story behind this is, some people say there was 12, some say there was 16. But of the ones that were built, it was like 4 of them that ended up on tour, demonstration models, prototypes, so forth. And this was supposed to be the first one that actually went into service. There's some stories that know there was another location that got it first. And yes, there was another location, not Miami, that got the star projector first. Got one of these models, that is. But the history is kind of murky. It's supposedly the one in Miami, which is this machine, or this is part of it, was the first to be put into operation. Now, over here is the multiplex rack. And what this did is, let's say you had 2 wires going out to the star projector itself. Okay, those 2 wires can perform one function. Let's say light up a lamp to represent a planet. Well, through multiplexing, they were able to take 2 wires and do multiple things. because you would be able to use the two wires. Let's say two wires being fed positive negative would turn on one lamp, feed the wires negative positive, they would turn on another lamp, feed them AC, they would do something different. So that drastically cut down on the number of wires going out to the machine. And I stuck that there probably, 10, 15 years ago. That too. Behind here, there's a slot where an oscilloscope would go for the machine. Now you'll notice, hey, that's an audio amp. What's that doing there? Well, there, and there's some holes right here. In those holes, there used to be controls for some audio amps. This thing uses 400 hertz AC, just like on an aircraft, to run all the motors and everything else. And the way they achieved the 400 hertz, we're talking 1966, is they used audio amps as power supplies. So there used to be some bogans that lived over here, but those bogans would blow up. It even says bogan on the front panel down there. They were kind of fickle. And then at one point in time, we started using some of these Yamaha 250 watt per channel audio amps. And that's a whole other story for the next video, to run things. You also have these units down here which were used as part of power supplies, and there's a cooling fan. I'll get more into an explanation of what these all were. But keep in mind, this is 1966 technology, and it was kept in operation till 2015. So how did they end up here? Well, I was the guy who used to keep this thing running. And when it closed, a bunch of us were able to take things home here and there. I helped take apart the star projector and then reassemble it with some custom lamp modules that I built at History Miami. But these things right here in the console kind of disappeared in some kind of weird internal wheeling and dealing that I was not privy to. But eventually all junk ends up at my house. So here they are, the three racks that ran the star projector. Now if you grew up in Miami and you went to the Miami Space Transit Planetarium and you saw planetarium shows, you saw laser shows, and you saw the stars moving around, that big machine in the middle of the room that was spinning around making you dizzy with the stars moving around the room, this is what ran the machine, these three racks right here. I'll be following up with some videos explaining what each of the racks do.